This is a PSA. And no, I don't mean public service announcement. What I mean is professional services automation. In this video, I'm going to ask Zoho to provide us with a better option for professional services automation, or PSA. If you run a professional services firm and you think the billing features are not quite up to scratch to suit your needs in terms of service billing, then you're not alone. You need a professional services automation software. My goal for this video is to bring this issue front and center for Zoho so that they have to take action. So help me vote for this feature, and I'm trying to make it easy for you. So just click the little like button at the bottom of this video, and that'll help let Zoho know how many people really want it. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to vote for features in software companies because you have to go through the support desk, then you have to find the actual ticket, then you have to vote your comments, and sometimes that's not as easy as it sounds. So I'm trying to make it really low friction and get enough evidence from the audience to say this is something that's wanted and demanded in the marketplace. Now, Zoho currently spend a lot of time working on platform features for developing areas. So they got a lot of growth in North Africa, a lot of growth in the Middle East, and so they're building features to suit that market. But the more noise that we create here, then the more likely we are to get the feature that we want. You can also help me get Zoho's attention by subscribing to this video, sharing it with your friends, and if you've got any other ideas, adding it in the comments down below. So what is a PSA? A PSA stands for Professional Services Automation. PSA is a term used in business to describe services billing. And it's not always straightforward. You've got different people at different rates, you've got different timelines for projects, you've got ad hoc work, you've got to manage resources and their allocations to this kind of work. And it's just a little bit more complex than what is currently addressed in Zoho. However, so many firms use it: IT, legal, engineering, consulting, and tons of others. Often there is a need to track and manage tasks and milestones and assign time billing to them. So yes, you might say, well, that sounds like projects, but the time billing feature in projects is quite simplistic, and I can't have different rates for different clients very easily. Or perhaps if I'm working on a job and I think that that job is really only at a lower level, that I want to bill at that level, because it's not going to make a lot of sense if me as the business owner charges a high dollar amount for a project task that is like an administrative, very low level. So charging hundreds of dollars for something that should only be $50 is probably going to end up damaging the relationship. One of the other challenges is that you can't then go and retrospectively contract manage. It's not very flexible to change the rates on each of these billing lines, so that if you need to make the invoice more compliant to the contract that was agreed upon, that you don't have that checking stage where someone can look at the billing proposal, make those tweaks and changes before actually publishing and sending the invoice. When you're dealing with tickets that come in through Zoho Desk, yes, there is a way to track time and there is a way to set rates for individuals. But again, you can't set different rates for the different individuals in your company. And even if you can, then you can't modify those based on the client. So there's very basic kind of time rules or time entry rules, and perhaps I might work on a ticket and I might also do work offline outside of the ticket. Even if I come back later and do a time entry, then it's still not really picking up a lot of the rules. There's a lot of complexity that's missing here. Providing services is more often than not providing time. Time is a non-recoverable asset and you still need to pay for that. And so quite often service firms will build retainers where they get upfront payments with a budget that they can draw down on. Whilst there is a retainer invoice inside of Zoho Books, it's disconnected from the time entries in projects and the time entries in Desk. And yes, you have the ability to create projects inside of Books. However, you can't then apply a standard rate card for that company, particularly if you're doing a large volume of deals or a number of deals for the one client. Sometimes you have different billing arrangements based on different relationships that you have with that client, or maybe there's multiple customers involved. But ideally, it would be nice to be able to set a subscription as the retainer inside of Zoho Billing, then have that automatically bill each month, then have that allocation of funds stored somewhere where as you're raising invoices, it can eat away at that. Now, Zoho will say that that is what retainer invoices are for and that you can do it in the system, but I think not. I don't think it's really seamless. You've got 5 or 6 disconnected apps trying to do the same thing. And in order to get the information and the reports we need just something else, some other layer just to grip up all of those features and really turn it into a usable dashboard, pipeline management tool, etc., specifically for service-based businesses. Now, I'm a Zoho partner and I've been to Zoho headquarters in India, and I go regularly to partner conferences and user days, etc. And I'm always talking to the development team, the product team, the partner team, and I mentioned this thing about PSA, but their standard response is, oh, you can do it in Creator, or you could do it with custom code. And yes, I get that, and yes, we could do a lot with Creator, but that's not the point. I feel like they're missing the point, or they don't understand what it is that I'm trying to convey. There are a number of tools out there that do this. Have a look at your IT industry ticketing systems. I can think of a number of other PSA tools. If you look specifically for that as a business component, then you will find better answers. And so this video is really designed to push and drive the understanding of what the services industry needs, the professional services industry in particular. Now, I've even gone as far as to look at Manage Engine, which is another Zoho owned product specifically designed for the IT MSP industry. So if you look at Service Desk Plus MSP, it is a ticketing system. And yes, you can track time. Yes, you can have, billable hours kind of booked to the job under the contract. But hours is one thing, and it kind of presumes a single flat rate. Whereas I might have a junior technician, and then I might have a senior technician, and I might also have consultants all at different rates. I need sometimes for those rates to be drawn down not from an hours budget, but from a dollars budget. So sometimes I might try and push tasks down to the lowest level to maximize the value for the client until I have to bring in the expert power, at which point I need to be able to reconcile the cost that I'm incurring from using that staff member, as well as the revenue that I need to earn in terms of a margin from that piece of work. So no, Manage Engine does not meet the criteria. There is an on-prem version, which is slightly ahead of the cloud version, but I really think cloud is the only way to really maximize the value of this system. So in terms of billing rates, a PSA tool should allow me to charge different rates for different individuals, but also store a central rate card where not only can I have the corporate rates saved, but I can create client-specific rates, particularly if I've negotiated a contract where I might give a cheaper consultant price because it's a much longer engagement, or maybe that's what I needed to do to get the deal over the line. We're talking about large professional services contracts. You need to have a little bit of flexibility in the way that you bill. I also need to allow for other types of billing scenarios, such as charging loading rates. In Australia, we have overtime and weekends and after hours rates, or perhaps on-site rates. So I might want to times the rate by 1.5 to allow for an on-site technician to go to site. And that covers the fuel, the vehicle, the parts that are in there, the wear and tear, things like that. So it's much better to have a complex billing engine and then make it simple for people to use, but can expand into, rather than have all the basic tools that are disconnected and not really providing the level of detail that many service businesses in particular need. Now, it is much better for a service business to have a budget set aside so that whilst people are in the moment and they're getting the value, they're like, yes, this is amazing. But sometimes time lets people forget exactly how good that service was. So it's better for service businesses to capture that revenue upfront or as fast as possible after the service is delivered. That way they're hot in the moment, they remember exactly what it was that was delivered. Otherwise, invoices tend to drag out 30 days, 45 days, 60, 90 plus, and meanwhile you've still had to pay the wages of the team that are doing the delivery. So retainers are a great way for service businesses to get a little bit more control and cash flow certainty. And based on the contract, you should be able to draw down either hours or value. So different billable rates can eat into a fixed budget And over the course of the period, ideally, you want those balances to be able to carry over, because half the time, if people are saying, you get 5 hours per month, they're going to try and use 4 hours and 59 minutes and 59 seconds in order to use every single piece of that budget, rather than allowing a little bit to carry over into the next month. And then maybe if you've used it all, eat into the next month. You want a long-term relationship that's built on trust. You don't want a relationship where you're fighting over every 5 cents to say, oh no, you lost it in that month because you didn't use it. So if you could carry that balance forward by 60, 90 days and have a little bit of flexibility that you eat into the next period before that period comes up, so that you're not fighting over the administration, you can just get on with the job. We like to do that where once we've set the relationship with the client, we can do a little bit this month, and if there's a bit of spare, we can do something a little bit bigger next month. But ideally, the value of the relationship being long-term is much better for both parties. So that's what a retainer gets to do. Resource planning is one of the most important things in a PSA, particularly as a service business grows and they've got all these costs and these people that are doing work all the time, every time. You need to make sure that their utilization rate is actually as high as possible. And generally you're looking around 70 to 80%. There's dwell time, there's training, there's internal time, but the more you can make billable one of your resources, then the more profitability there's going to be in the business, because you're going to pay for those resources anyway. Some of them may be on contract, so maybe we need to be able to generate recipient created tax invoices so that as they're tracking the time to the project, they know how much as the contractor to invoice you, and so that you can make sure that that is acquitted and exactly what was billed to the client, so that the business in the middle is never really damaged or incurring loss. Resource planning also allows project managers to manage the workload of the team so that no one person is overloaded or underloaded, and also being able to track the skills of the employees so that in a large organization, you don't know everybody by name, or you don't have regular comms with everybody. So it's good to be able to have a quick searchable database so you know exactly who to put to the task. Now, Zoho has a lot of these components already built. They have books, they have billing, they have projects, they have desk, and they also got people. And a lot of those things that I've talked about are kind of in there, but they just haven't quite got there. They're not quite at that point where you can reliably say, this is a business function that is suitable for this particular type of industry. So what I think needs to happen is another app or a way to group those apps together that brings a lot of those functions together, but then deepens the capability to be able to solve for those industries. There is also the missing piece of the effective retainer billing component that needs to be addressed. So, if you run a professional services organization, help me to push Zoho towards building these features by giving this video a like, a subscribe, and adding your thoughts in the comments. It's really going to help. If you're a Zoho user, don't forget to check out the rest of our Zoho playlist. I'll put the link in the comments. And before you go, you might also like to check out this video.